Twins.
In my mask matches?
Twinning it.
You know where it's at.
You guys finish each other's...
Sentences.
I didn't do it.
Oh, okay.
Friends Youth, thanks for joining us for Youth Online. Landon is out of town this week, so enjoy this message from Jason on Acts chapter 3.
Hey, what's up, Res students? It's another Tuesday night where we are going through the book of Acts. If you haven't met me yet, I know it's kind of a new face up here. My name is Jason, and I get to hang out with the high school students on a weekly basis. In fact, we're all probably huddled around my TV right now in my house watching this. So what's up, high schoolers? It's good to see you. But if I haven't met you guys yet, I would love to meet you. Come to this Friday night, our one-night event. If you see me there, come give me a high five, introduce yourself. I'd love to get to know you. So a little bit about myself is I'm a Coloradoan, fourth generation native. I've grown up in Colorado, lived here my entire life. I love the mountains. I love hiking. I have a family, a beautiful wife, and two amazing children. If you haven't met them yet, they'd love to meet you too. But what I do on a weekly basis is I actually work as an engineer. And one of the things that I find that I really love about engineering is that I can take a look at something and see how it's going to act, see how something is going to go, and what the end product of that thing is going to be. You know, if I look at a machine, I can figure out what the machine does, what the end result is supposed to be. But something else that I really like doing is looking at an end result and taking it back to how it got there in the first place. It's called reverse engineering something. It's where you take a look at something and you pick it apart and you figure out what it took to get to that place. But something I kind of like about that is that that's not a trait specific to engineers. See, we all do that in our normal everyday life. You as students have probably done this earlier this week. You probably did it this morning. But what I'm talking about is when we look at somebody or we look at something and we figure out how it got to that point. If you guys look at a superstar athlete, you look at them and you just kind of know that they've practiced hard their entire life. And maybe they even have a skill that is kind of natural to them. You can look at that and tell how they got to the position they're in. Another way we do this is in school. When we look at somebody with really good grades, we look at them and go, wow, they must study a lot. Whether or not that's something you're interested in or not, that's completely cool, but it is something that we realize about other people. See, we all look at people in areas and we see or we think we can discern how they got to that position. See, we can take examples from other people and we can learn from them. We can look at people and see the path that they're on and figure different ways for our own path how to maybe make it through the next section of our lives. See, if we really want to be a valedictorian, we know we need to study a lot. If we really want to be an all-star athlete, we know we need to practice a lot. There are just certain things that we need to do that we take lessons from other people's lives and we apply it to our own, and that's a good thing. But there's also a huge caution in that. The caution is this, that if you look at somebody's life and you don't understand how they got to that position accurately, you can apply an incorrect message to your own life. See, if you look at somebody, let's say a famous YouTuber, and you think they got to be a really famous YouTuber by sitting down and watching a lot of YouTube videos, and so you apply that to your life and all you do is sit down and watch a bunch of YouTube videos, you're not going to end up being a successful YouTuber. See, it took a lot of practice. It took a lot of creativity. It took some trial and error. But if we look at that and we assume one thing about their life on how they got there and we apply that incorrectly to our life, we can end up down a path that we didn't want to end up down. And see, as we go through the book of Acts, we're in Acts chapter 3, and I kind of bring all of this up because in Acts chapter 3, John and Peter run into a group of people who did exactly that. See, Peter and John go to the Temple Mount in Jerusalem. So the Temple Mount was kind of where the Jewish religion had all of their holy rituals and prayers, and that was kind of the holy spot, and that's where people congregated. Peter and John were under a mission from God. God had told them to go and share the good news of what Christ did for all of these people to the people of Israel, and actually into the ends of the earth, to everybody. And so they liked to go to certain places they knew people were going to be. So they go to the Temple Mounts, and they enter in through this gate. And at the gate, there is a guy who's laying there who can't walk. The guy sits there and he begs as people come in because he can't walk, he can't perform a job. He can't do anything to actually make money. And so his friends just kind of drop him down at the gate to let him beg throughout the day to hopefully get a little bit of money to feed himself at the end of the day. And so as John and Peter walk by, this beggar asks them to help. And Peter and John look down at this guy, and the first words they say is, "Look up at me," because I can kind of assume this guy was kind of ashamed. He didn't really like the position he was in, and so he's just kind of begging with his head down and hoping he gets something. So Peter and John tell him to look up at him, and what they say is, "Gold or silver I do not have to give to you, but what I do have, I give." See, Peter and John knew this guy was asking for money, but they didn't have anything. That was not what God had given them. God had given them something else. And so Peter and John gave him what God had given them. And that was the Holy Spirit and the power behind that Holy Spirit. They looked at this man and said, "Get up and walk." And the guy does. It's one of the many miracles that Peter and John perform throughout the book of Acts. And this one's really substantial because there were thousands of people who witnessed this. This was in a public place. This was where a lot of people were. And so when they saw this guy that everybody's used to walking by on a day-to-day basis, walking, jumping, singing praises, saying, "God healed me," they were astonished. And so they ran up to Peter and John, and they wanted to know how this happened. Now see, this is where this group of Israelites looked at somebody's life and assumed they understood how they got to that point. The crowd come up to Peter and John and they ask, "Oh my gosh, how did you do this?" And Peter and John look right back at them and they say, "Men of Israel, why are you astonished that we did this?" As if it was from our own power or godliness. See, the men of Israel looked at Peter and John and they thought that somehow by their own godliness or by them doing all the right things or saying all the right words or pleasing God in some way, that they were able to do amazing things. And see, this is where the caution comes in, because if the men of Israel had always assumed that Peter and John were able to do amazing things because they did the right things, or it was because anything of their own ability, they would have completely missed God working through their lives. See, a lot of times we focus on the people and we forget about the God behind it. A lot of times we focus on what the person is doing and we completely negate the power of God behind that person's life. Similarly, if we look at different things throughout the Bible and we apply those things to our life incorrectly, it could really lead us down a path that forgets the God behind the lessons. See, we should be looking at the Bible for examples. We should be looking at other men's lives. We should be looking at all of the lessons learned by other people throughout the Bible and throughout our lives. But that cannot be the only thing we learn from. We cannot learn just from somebody else's path. See, the Bible and other people's lives are put into our own path for a reason. They have seen things that we will see. They have overcome things that we need to overcome. They have learned hard lessons that hopefully you can learn from those things by just reading the Bible instead of having to go through those things too. And those are good things to learn. But the reality is those people were on their own path. And if we try to follow the actions of somebody else to a letter, we're following their path instead of ours. We should take those lessons and apply it to our life, but in the path that God has us on. God has us on our own individual path. And so what I am pleading for you guys to understand right now is that you follow God, not the people of the Bible. You learn from those examples. You learn from the Bible. You learn from the people around you, but you don't follow those people. You follow the God behind those people. Still learn from people like Pastor Landon, people like Pastor Jonathan, Pastor Ty. These are amazing men, and they have amazing wisdom and knowledge to share to you guys. And you should be learning from and following a lot of those lessons, but it should not be those men or those people in your life that you completely emulate. It should be the God behind those people. So my question to you is, what is your motivation when you learn from others? See, are you trying to completely emulate somebody else's path? You look at somebody else's life and you go, I want to end up like that person, and maybe that's good, but what I want to caution you against is following that person's path identically. You should follow the God behind that person's path. You should follow the God that guided them that way, and you should learn from their lessons, but don't follow the person, follow the God. So for your own life, what is your intention behind your decisions? In what ways are you following people instead of following the God behind it? See, I want to caution you to learn from the lessons of the Israelites. Don't think that the person is responsible for doing amazing things. It's the Spirit of God within that person that really enables people to do amazing things. It's God that gives us our abilities. It's God that gives us our gifts and our skills. And we should be focusing on the God, not the person. Don't focus on the person, focus on the God. So in your life, as we go into a time of discussion with our small group leaders, I want you to focus on what in your life are you focusing on a person instead of the God behind that person. Thank you guys for coming tonight. We love you. We'll see you next week.
Hey, thanks so much for watching Res Youth Online. I hope you enjoyed that message from Jason on Acts chapter 3. I'm going to be back next week. I'm grateful he filled in for me, but I'm stoked to be back with you guys. But before next week rolls around, this Friday night, August 7th, we have an amazing one-night service. It's one night of camp, one night of fun, one night with a guest speaker and a full band. We're doing a giveaway. We're giving away a paddleboard with an air pump and a life jacket and a hydro flask and a backpack to carry it in. It's amazing. So if you've ever wanted to paddleboard out on the lakes, now is your opportunity. Show up on Friday night with your friend and you get an extra entry for every friend that you bring. So you bring 4 friends, you get 4 entries to win this paddleboard. It's an amazing giveaway. On top of it, we're going to have a dunk tank where you can dunk some of our pastors. We're going to have Chick-fil-A here, free Chick-fil-A. This whole event is free for you. You don't have to pay to enter the giveaway. You don't have to pay to walk through the doors. It's going to be a free event. It's going to be so much fun. There's going to be cornhole out here and spike ball in the dunk tank and lights and the fire pit's going to be going over there. It's going to be awesome. And it would not be the same without you there. Want to see you there this Friday. Love you guys so much. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll see you on Friday.